Lilly just pulled off one of the boldest 1-2 punches we've seen all year, first announcing a new Walmart pharmacy partnership that promises easier pickup for Zepbound vials, and then less than 24 hours later dropping another record-breaking earnings report that cements its lead in the GLP-1 market. But that's only part of this week's story. Novo Nordisk stunned everyone with a $6.5 billion counteroffer to outbid Pfizer from Metsera, a move that could completely reshape who controls the next wave of obesity treatments. And while the pharmaceutical giants battle it out, new Gallup data shows something remarkable happening here at home. For the first time in nearly 20 years, U.S. obesity rates are starting to fall. All that and more coming up on this week's edition of the Downsized News.
Welcome back. It's Monday, November 3rd, 2025. I'm Lorraine Durham, and I've lost over 50 pounds using the GLP-1 medication tirzepatide. We're here every Monday to bring you the latest news in the world of GLP-1s.
And I'm Christopher Durham. I've lost 100 pounds with GLP-1s, and this is where we talk about what that's really like, the wins, the hard days, and the science behind it all.
Each week, we bring you the latest GLP-1 news, from Mounjaro, Zepbound, Wegovy, and Ozempic to the new treatments on the horizon. We look at the research, the policies, and the real stories that affect all of us who are battling the disease of obesity.
If you're new to our channel, welcome. And if you've been with us for a while, welcome back. We're not doctors, and this isn't medical advice. We're just sharing what we've learned along the way.
We post new videos every day here at the Downsized. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up with our daily content. And before we get started, go ahead and click that like button. Okay, are you ready, Christopher?
Always ready.
Let's get started. In story number one, if you missed our coverage late last week, the two biggest stories of the week both came from Eli Lilly. And together they showed just how fast the GLP-1 landscape is evolving. The first story today, and the one getting the most attention, is Lilly's new partnership with Walmart Pharmacy. At first glance, it sounds like a major leap forward. For the first time, patients will be able to pick up Zepbound vials directly at Walmart stores through Lilly Direct, Lilly's direct-to-consumer healthcare platform. Starting mid-November, patients with a valid prescription will be able to select Walmart pickup during checkout on Lilly Direct, paying $349 for the 2.5 milligram starter dose and $499 for all higher doses, all with no insurance, no prior authorization, and no coupons. But here's the reality. This partnership isn't exactly groundbreaking. It's not an open retail program. It's the same restricted Lilly Direct system, simply delivered to a Walmart counter instead of your doorstep. That may be convenient for some patients who prefer in-person pickup, but it's not new access. It's a repackaged version of the same closed network Lilly has been running since late 2023. No insurance billing, no outside pharmacies, and no flexibility to shop elsewhere. Lilly says the move is designed to make treatment more personal and more convenient. Walmart calls it a way to meet patients where they are. But for now, it's still Lilly Direct only, and that means many pharmacies and patients remain locked out. The timing, though, was strategic. Lilly announced the Walmart partnership just one day before its third quarter earnings call, and that's where the bigger story unfolded. On Thursday, Lilly reported another record-breaking quarter, with total revenue reaching $12.9 billion, up 26% year over year. Zepbound and Mounjaro, which both contain the GLP-1 and GIP tirzepatide, accounted for more than $4.3 billion of those profits. Zepbound alone brought in $2.15 billion, nearly double its Q2 performance and officially surpassing Novo Nordisk's Wegovy in new U.S. prescriptions. Mounjaro, primarily prescribed for diabetes, contributed another $2.2 billion, with strong international growth continuing to accelerate. Obesity and diabetes treatments now represent more than 40% of all Eli Lilly revenue, a massive shift for the company. During the call, CEO David Ricks said the Walmart partnership and the continued expansion of Lilly Direct are part of a long-term strategy to simplify the patient experience. He says patients want authenticity, simplicity, and choice, and Lilly Direct delivers all three. By combining our digital platform with pharmacy partners like Walmart, we're making it easier for patients to start and stay on treatment. Lilly also confirmed that new manufacturing facilities in Indiana and North Carolina are ramping up to increase supply, with additional capacity expected to come online in 2026.
But here's what patients and investors really care about. The price, at $499 a month, remains far too expensive for most people to pay out of pocket. When asked if Lilly planned to lower prices or expand affordability options, executives said they are evaluating future access models, but stopped short of making any commitments, so no signs of lowering the prices at this point. While the company celebrated record sales and its Walmart expansion, Zepbound price is too high and remains too expensive for most people battling the disease of obesity. From the patient perspective, this feels like a mix of progress and frustration. Yes, Walmart pickup will be more convenient for some, but it doesn't fix the access problem and it doesn't lower the cost. It's still available through Lilly Direct only, still cash pay, and still expensive. As I said during our live broadcast from the Royal Caribbean Wonder of the Season, Nassau, this is a good step forward for convenience, but not for accessibility. It's a baby step when what we really need is a leap. Now is the time for Lilly to be the hero, to lower prices and build a loyal community of patients who regain their health with the help of Zepbound. In the end, the Walmart partnership is a reminder of two things. First, Lilly is dominating the GLP-1 market with record growth, strong supply expansion, and more patients than ever starting treatment. And second, Zepbound vials are still too expensive. We'll be watching closely as Walmart begins offering the Lilly Direct Zepbound vials in mid-November, and as Lilly's competitors decide whether to follow with their own retail access programs. It's a big week for Lilly.
Yeah, they keep making billions of dollars per quarter, basically all from Mounjaro and Zepbound. It's 40% of their profits. And now they've added Walmart to be a distribution point for their Lilly Direct program.
Yeah, so to be clear, you cannot walk into Walmart with a prescription to get it filled. You have to go to the Lilly Direct site, pay for it there, your prescriber sends it to them, and then when you get to the end, it says, would you like to have this delivered to your home or would you like to pick it up at your local Walmart?
Yeah, so just another choice.
Yeah. But same Lilly Direct rules. So the price will go up if you don't buy every 45 days. All those same things stay the same. Story number 2.
In the world of medicine, sometimes the biggest battles aren't fought in laboratories or hospitals, but in boardrooms and courtrooms. This week, the global race to develop the next generation of obesity treatments took an unexpected turn as Novo Nordisk made a surprise counteroffer to acquire the biotech company Metsera, a move so bold it's already reshaping the industry's balance of power. Novo, the Danish drug maker behind Wegovy and Ozempic, offered more than $6.5 billion in cash, with another $2.5 billion tied to future milestones, a deal worth nearly $9 billion in total. That's roughly 130% more than Metsera's value just weeks ago. For Novo Nordisk, a company best known for insulin and GLP-1 drugs, it was a staggering offer. Novo's new chief executive, Mike Dudestar, called it a strategic step toward reaching millions more people living with obesity and diabetes. But to Pfizer, it was something else entirely. Pfizer thought it already had a deal with Metsera. In September, Pfizer announced plans to buy Metsera for about $5 billion up front, plus additional payments if the company's experimental drugs met key goals. The agreement was unanimous. It had been approved by Metsera's board, cleared by regulators, and as far as Pfizer was concerned, was ready to close. Then Novo stepped in. Its proposal wasn't simple, and perhaps not meant to be. Novo's plan would give it half of Metsera's shares through non-voting preferred stock, while paying existing investors $56.50 per share in cash and issuing a special dividend of the same amount. Later, if all went according to plan, Metsera's investors would receive another $21 per share linked to development milestones. Metsera's board called the offer superior, but Pfizer saw it as something else, an end run around both the law and their signed agreement. Within hours, Pfizer filed a lawsuit in Delaware's Court of Chancery, accusing Metsera, its directors, and Novo Nordisk of breaching contracts, fiduciary duties, and basic fairness. Pfizer called the move reckless and unprecedented and alleged that Novo's structure was designed to evade antitrust review and suppress competition. The timing made the fight even more dramatic. Just a day earlier, the Federal Trade Commission had quietly cleared Pfizer's original merger, giving it permission to move forward immediately. With that approval in hand, Pfizer insists the deal is lawful, complete, and ready to close as soon as Metsera's shareholders vote on November 13th. At stake are not just profits or prestige, but what could become the next generation of obesity medicines. Metsera's early trials have shown remarkable results. One of its candidates, once-monthly GLP-1 injection, has helped patients lose about 11% of their body weight in 12 weeks. Another long-acting amylin therapy produced an 8% loss in just 5 weeks. Both could one day be combined into a single treatment, a gentler, longer-lasting option for people using GLP-1s to treat the disease of obesity. For Pfizer, the acquisition would mark a return to a field it once left behind. Its own oral GLP-1 pill, danuglipron, failed in development, and the company has been searching for a way back. With vaccine sales declining and key patents nearing expiration, Metsera could help rewrite Pfizer's future. For Novo Nordisk, the bid may be as much about defense as discovery. By buying Metsera, Novo would keep its rival from gaining ground and secure a pipeline of new compounds that might extend its lead for another decade. Investors have already taken sides. Metsera shares jumped more than 20% after the news broke, while Pfizer's barely moved and Novo's slipped a bit on regulatory worries. But the real story isn't what happens to stock price. It's what this fight means for patients. If Pfizer prevails, it could bring a long-awaited third competitor into a market now dominated by 2 companies. That could mean more options, more innovation, and perhaps lower prices for patients who rely on these medicines. If Novo wins, it preserves the duopoly and keeps control of pricing and supply in the hands of the same 2 players, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, who already dominate obesity care around the world. For now, the case is in the hands of the Delaware court. The FTC has cleared the path, and Metsera's shareholders are preparing to vote. It's a reminder that in the race to treat obesity, science is only part of the story. The rest comes down to who gets to compete and who's allowed to win.
So, will Pfizer be the third player? Will the FTC step in and say, no, Novo, that's too much for you?
Well, I guess the shareholders have to vote, so unless the shareholders think that Novo deal is better, it'll probably just close with Pfizer.
All right, next story. For the first time in decades, America's long climb in obesity rates appears to be slowing, and new national data suggests that GLP-1 medications that we talk about all the time, Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound, may be part of the reason. According to the latest Gallup National Health and Well-Being Index, self-reported obesity among U.S. adults fell from 39.9% in 2022 to 37% in 2025, the first meaningful decline since Gallup began tracking obesity nearly 2 decades ago. That drop, roughly 3 percentage points, represents millions fewer Americans identifying as obese and marks the first sign of reversal in a trend that had steadily risen for more than 60 years. Since 2008, the share of U.S. adults reporting obesity has climbed from 25.5% to nearly 40%, reflecting one of the most persistent health challenges in the country. But Gallup's latest numbers show that the line may finally be bending. Researchers are calling it the Ozempic Effect, a measurable shift in national data that coincides with the rapid rise of GLP-1 prescriptions. In 2022, roughly 2 million Americans were using GLP-1 medications. By 2025, that number is estimated to have surged past 9 million, according to IQVIA prescription data. For years, weight loss campaigns, diets, and public health programs, from the $33 billion weight loss industry to government efforts like Let's Move, failed to slow the country's growing obesity rate. Many experts believe the rise was biologically inescapable, but now, for the first time, the national numbers are moving in the other direction. Gallup's data also reveal an encouraging shift beyond weight. Americans report eating smaller portions, consuming more protein, and exercising slightly more often. These behavioral changes mirror what GLP-1 users across the country describe: less food noise, fewer cravings, and better control over hunger. While the decline is modest, analysts say it's a significant moment, the first indication that America's decades-long obesity epidemic may be starting to plateau. If this trend continues, it could signal one of the most important public health turning points in a generation. For many of us using GLP-1s to treat the disease of obesity, these numbers aren't just statistics. They reflect what we've already seen in our real lives, real progress. All right, so I don't know, it's self-reported data.
Hello, this is the Gallup poll. Are you obese? Yes, no, maybe.
Well, I mean,
Last year, yes. This year, no. Goodbye.
I mean, I can tell you just in the last, you and I've done this, right? So in the last 20 years, I've done enough consumer research that if you ask people, do you exercise? They always say yes. If you ask people, do you want to save the planet? They always say yes. If you ask people, I mean, there's just a lot of things they're going to lie to you about, or they simply don't know.
I mean, I guess I would say, well, how do you define obesity?
Exactly. I mean, did you tell them what that was, and do they know their BMI?
I mean, do you have a BMI chart I could refer my weight with? I don't know. In story number 4, if you've ever stood in front of your pantry or scrolled through an online grocery app wondering what foods really work while you're on a GLP-1, you're not alone. Thrive Market just made that a little easier. The online grocer has launched a new GLP-1 friendly filter to help shoppers using medications like Zepbound, Mounjaro, Wegovy, or Ozempic to find foods that fit the way we eat now. Smaller portions, higher protein, and fewer foods that make us feel uncomfortable or queasy. According to April Lane, Thrive's chief merchandising officer, the idea came straight from shoppers. Over the past year, searches for GLP-1, high protein, and low sugar have steadily climbed on Thrive's website. People weren't just looking for healthier foods, they were looking for foods that work with GLP-1s. As Peyton Begora at Grocery Dive first reported, Thrive Market is one of the first major retailers to officially acknowledge this new reality. Millions of people are now using GLP-1 medications to treat the disease of obesity, and that's quietly reshaping grocery habits across the country. Behind the scenes, Thrive's nutrition, quality, and merchandising teams reviewed more than 1,000 items to decide what belongs under the new filter. They focused on nutrient density, products high in protein and fiber, and excluded foods with artificial sweeteners, sugar alcohols, refined carbs, or high saturated fats. Even spicy foods didn't make the cut, since they can sometimes irritate the stomach or slow digestion. The result is a selection of more than 1,000 options, everything from national brands to Thrive's own private label. It's easier for GLP-1 users to shop without endless label reading. This shift isn't just about one company. A recent PwC analysis published in the Harvard Business Review found that grocery spending drops 6 to 8% within a year in households where someone uses a GLP-1 medication. We're buying fewer calorie-dense foods and more nutrient-rich staples, a quiet but powerful change that's forcing grocers to rethink what ends up on the shelf. If you're using a GLP-1, you already know this transformation firsthand. Smaller portions, intentional eating, a different relationship with food. Thrive's new filter is a recognition of that, a small but meaningful step toward a food system that meets us where we are. And if it catches on, don't be surprised when your favorite grocery app adds a GLP-1 friendly button too.
So do you like this move?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd like to see what criteria they used exactly to classify things.
We have met the Thrive team.
No, I know. They've come to our conferences for our private brands business, so I'm familiar with the name, but I've never shopped it.
Yeah. Story number 5, as millions of us turn to GLP-1 medications such as Ozempic and Wegovy to help treat obesity, one of the country's oldest names in vitamins and protein powders is stepping into the conversation. This week, GNC announced the publication of what it calls a groundbreaking review article in the journal Obesity Pillars. The paper, written by members of GNC's research team, explores how dietary supplements might support people using GLP-1 medications, from maintaining muscle to easing gastrointestinal side effects. The review, titled Dietary Supplement Considerations During Glucagon-like Peptide 1 Receptor Agonist Treatment, summarizes existing studies on nutrients like protein, omega-3s, vitamin D, and fiber. It also suggests that compounds such as creatine and HMB could help preserve lean body mass during rapid weight loss, while probiotics and antioxidants may help with gut and cellular health. Dr. Brittany Johnson, GNC's lead author, described the work as filling an important gap in guidance for clinicians treating GLP-1 users. Patients are increasingly turning to weight loss medications, yet little peer-reviewed guidance exists on how to integrate dietary supplements alongside GLP-1 treatment, she said in the release. The company notes that this paper builds on its earlier study examining nutrient intake among GLP-1 users, with a follow-up clinical trial now underway. Rachel Kreider, GNC's Vice President of Product Innovation and Science, added that the goal is to translate evidence-based findings into practical nutritional guidance and product formulas. Still, while the topic is timely, the findings are not yet transformative. The review largely compiles prior nutrition research rather than introducing new clinical data, and the authors acknowledge that supplement use in the context of GLP-1 therapy remains an area in need of rigorous independent study. In other words, it's an early step, an interesting one, certainly, but not a revolution. For now, doctors and dietitians say the same advice holds. Talk to your healthcare provider about what's best for you. Remember that vitamins, shakes, or supplements shouldn't replace the core of GLP-1 therapy: medical treatment, balanced nutrition, and movement. So,
in story number 6, telehealth company Hims & Hers has announced a new offering: access to compounded GLP-1 microdosing treatment plans, part of what it calls a more individualized approach to metabolic health. Craig Primack, Senior Vice President of Weight Management at Hims & Hers, the company said the goal is to give providers more flexibility to tailor care for people who may benefit from smaller or slower dosing approaches. Sustained health outcomes don't come from a quick fix, Dr. Primack said. Microdosing treatment plans may help minimize side effects and encourage longer-term adherence. The company also noted that its clinicians can now consider factors beyond BMI, including metabolic risk conditions such as high blood pressure or sleep apnea when prescribing treatment. The new plans include compounded semaglutide, offered through the company's existing weight loss by Hims & Hers program. However, microdosing GLP-1s is not an FDA-approved practice, and neither Eli Lilly nor Novo Nordisk, the makers of Zepbound, Mounjaro, Wegovy, and Ozempic, recommend or support the use of GLP-1 medications at microdose levels. At this point, there are no peer-reviewed clinical studies demonstrating the safety or effectiveness of GLP-1 microdosing for weight loss or metabolic health. While Hims & Hers describes this as an early-stage innovation, microdosing remains an emerging and unproven approach. More research will be needed to determine whether it provides any measurable benefits or long-term safety advantages. For now, microdosing is not approved, endorsed, or regulated by the FDA. Patients using GLP-1 medications to treat the disease of obesity are encouraged to consult their healthcare providers before considering any non-standard dosing regimens.
So we've seen a couple of different telehealth companies, particularly selling these microdosing plans. Basically, I think they're trying to hit a price point because these plans look pretty cheap on paper.
I just don't know why someone would start with microdosing when it's unproven and untested.
Cue the comments that say, I was on blah, 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 and it's worked for me.
I mean, we have heard stories of people who are very sensitive to medications or, try a lower dose and it's too strong, so then they go down in dose. But I don't know why you would start with anything but the 2.5 starting dose of tirzepatide. But talk to your doctor, for sure.
Across the country, a growing number of states are taking steps to expand insurance coverage for GLP-1 medications, a class of drugs that we all know and love, which has reshaped the way millions of Americans approach obesity and metabolic health. According to Pharmacy Times, between 2022 and 2024, about 25 states implemented some form of taxpayer-funded coverage for anti-obesity medications. And in just the first half of 2025, at least 14 states introduced new bills or regulations aimed at improving access to GLP-1 and GIP drugs. The most notable move came from North Dakota, which became the first state to mandate insurance coverage for GLP-1 and GIP medications. Lawmakers there amended the state's essential health benefit clause under the Affordable Care Act, requiring that all individual and group health plans cover these treatments. In short, insurers in North Dakota can no longer exclude medications such as Wegovy, Mounjaro, or Zepbound when prescribed to treat obesity. Other states are experimenting with similar policies, though progress is uneven. California's AB 575 would require health plans to cover at least one prescription anti-obesity drug, while Connecticut introduced parallel bills directing GLP-1 coverage for both state employees and certain other groups. Colorado passed a more limited law allowing individuals to purchase extended coverage, while Iowa, Texas, Montana, and New Mexico all introduced mandates that failed to advance. Some states are targeting Medicaid coverage instead. Mississippi's SB 2867 sought to add GLP-1 coverage to Medicaid, but was vetoed by the governor over budget concerns. Virginia, meanwhile, already reimburses GLP-1 prescriptions for obesity treatment, though only under tight prior authorization rules and strict medical necessity criteria. Behind these state-level efforts lies a common tension: the soaring cost of GLP-1 medications versus the proven health outcome they deliver. As clinical evidence mounts showing benefits beyond weight loss, including a reduced cardiovascular risk and improvements in metabolic markers, policymakers are weighing whether the upfront investment could ultimately save states money through lower long-term healthcare costs. Jim Rubel, who holds a PharmD JD, which is a dual degree combining a Doctor of Pharmacy and a Juris Doctor, and is a professor at the University of Utah College of Pharmacy, said this: "The economics of GLP-1 agents and other pharmacologic therapies for obesity remain central to policy decisions on insurance coverage. The clinical evidence of a positive benefit for these agents continues to accumulate. Whether that evidence will be enough to tip the scales and open access for millions more Americans remains to be seen. But for now, the movement is unmistakable. State by state, the case for covering obesity as a chronic disease is growing stronger." Who knew I would want to move to North Dakota?
I wonder if our friend Jamie.
Where Jamie lives. Yeah,
Jamie does some.
He's politically involved.
Politics up in North Dakota, so we'll have to check in with him on that. In story number 8, in what could signal a new chapter in the global competition for diabetes and obesity treatments, Eli Lilly and its Chinese partner Innovent Biologics announced that their dual-acting drug, mazdutide, has outperformed Novo Nordisk's semaglutide in a phase 3 clinical trial. The China-based study, involving 349 adults with early-stage type 2 diabetes and obesity, compared mazdutide, 6 milligrams, directly with semaglutide, 1 milligram, marking the first head-to-head test of its kind between drugs from these two pharmaceutical giants. At 32 weeks, 48% of participants treated with mazdutide achieved both healthy blood sugar levels, which is an HbA1c of under 7%, and at least 10% weight loss, compared with 21% of those taking semaglutide. On average, patients on mazdutide saw their HbA1c drop by 2% and their body weight fall by 10%, while those on semaglutide experienced reductions of almost 2% and 6% respectively. Dr. Linon G, the trial's principal investigator, noted that treatment strategies addressing both glycemic control and weight loss are playing an increasingly critical role in managing type 2 diabetes and obesity. Mazdutide, a GLP-1 glucagon dual receptor agonist, targets both the GLP-1 and GCG receptors, combining blood sugar regulation with increased energy expenditure and improved fat metabolism. The drug was approved in China in June 2025 for both weight management and diabetes, making it the first of its kind to reach the market. Innovent's chief R&D officer, Dr. Li Quan, said the results show promise for patients requiring multifaceted improvements in glycemic control, body weight, and cardiometabolic risk factors. Under a 2019 licensing agreement, Innovent holds the rights to mazdutide in China, while Eli Lilly retains rights elsewhere. Lilly has not yet submitted the drug for regulatory approval outside of China. The two companies plan to expand studies of mazdutide to include adolescents with obesity, patients with metabolic-associated fatty liver disease, or MASH, and individuals with certain heart failure conditions. Another trial will directly compare mazdutide to tirzepatide, Lilly's blockbuster GLP-1 GIP dual agonist, marketed as Mounjaro and Zepbound. These findings suggest that Lilly's dual pathway strategy may once again reshape the playing field, this time by combining two powerful metabolic targets into one promising therapy.
So you've got a GLP-1 and a glucagon.
Mazdutide.
All right. So for everybody who remembers retatrutide is a GLP-1 and GIP.
It has a triple
and a
agonist.
Glucagon.
Has three things.
So basically, this is two of the things from
retatrutide.
The
Oh.
GLP-1 and the glucagon. And tirzepatide is the GLP-1 and the GIP. And retatrutide is all three.
Fascinating.
I would have to believe this comes to market, and then it just gives your doctor another option. That maybe you react better to a glucagon than a GIP. Who knows?
It's interesting that they're testing this on adolescents.
Well, that's next round. I mean, they want to know how it all works out. Across the country, smoking and obesity remains the two leading causes of preventable death, and for millions of Americans, the two go hand in hand, each magnifying the damage of the other, together raising the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. But a new study out of the University of Kansas Medical Center suggests that a powerful new class of drugs, the GLP-1 drugs that have transformed obesity treatment, might one day help tackle both. These medications were originally developed to treat type 2 diabetes. Today, they're prescribed to help patients manage weight and improve cardiovascular health. And now early research hints that they may also affect the same brain pathways that make nicotine so addictive. Animal studies have shown GLP-1s dull the dopamine response that gives smokers their reward. And a small pilot trial in humans found that adding a GLP-1 drug to nicotine patch therapy nearly doubled the quit rate among overweight or pre-diabetic smokers. Yet despite that promise, the new KU-led study published in Diabetes Care found that people who smoke are less likely to receive a prescription for a GLP-1 medication, even when they meet the same eligibility criteria as non-smokers. We see a sort of disparity, said Dr. Elily Levins, assistant professor of population health and the study's lead author. Smokers have higher rates of the diseases these drugs are meant to treat, but they're less likely to get the prescription. Using electronic health records for more than a year of outpatient visits of the University of Kansas health system, researchers found that 2/3 of adults who smoke qualified for a GLP-1 medication, but only about 20% received one, compared with 23% of non-smokers. The difference may seem small, yet it was consistent across every category: weight management, diabetes, and cardiovascular prevention. Results aren't yet clear. Dr. Levin suspects that insurance coverage may play a role, since people who smoke are less likely to have plans that pay for obesity medications. Another factor researchers note could be that some non-smokers in the data set were actually former smokers who had already quit, possibly with help from a GLP-1 treatment. Dr. Christy Brown, co-author of the study and associate professor of cell biology and physiology, believes there's an even larger opportunity here. Smoking worsens the metabolic problems tied to obesity, she said. A GLP-1 drug could potentially tackle both, helping patients reduce weight, improve insulin sensitivity, and maybe even quit smoking. The researchers are calling on providers to start seeing GLP-1s not just as a weight loss drug, but as a tool for whole patient care. If someone qualifies for a GLP-1 and also smokes, they argue that's a moment to act. Start a conversation not only about blood sugar and weight, but about quitting tobacco too. It's an exciting opportunity, said Dr. Levins. We're talking about the two leading causes of preventable death in the country. And in Kansas, both are above the national average. Imagine if we could address them both together. For now, the team is planning more studies, exploring the links between metabolic health and smoking cessation. The next frontier in GLP-1 treatment might not just be about losing weight. It could be about helping more people finally put out that last cigarette.
You know, I wonder if there's some sort of doctor bias against smokers. Like there's sometimes a doctor's bias against people with obesity.
Probably.
You know, they say, if you could just quit smoking, then maybe we could solve these. If you just lose weight, then we could solve all these other problems.
From this, they have the double whammy anyway. So
double whammy.
Obese and smoking.
So one would think if they're treating obesity, give them the GLP-1, right?
Well, I mean, they were adding it to the patch, to the nicotine patch. Which
Adding
is
the
interesting.
treatment alongside the nicotine
I mean, so
patch.
that might truly be a reason for a microdose, right? They might actually, who knows what that dose was they were adding.
Well, it would be interesting to see if smokers without obesity could benefit from the GLP-1 to stop smoking.
This one's you.
In story number 10, in Italy, a team of researchers has found something quietly remarkable. Real-world data from more than 14,000 adults suggests that GLP-1 medications, drugs first designed to manage blood sugar, may help some people with type 2 diabetes reach remission. The study, published in the Lancet Regional Health, Europe, looked back at patients who had started GLP-1 therapy between 2010 and 2022. These were everyday people. The average age was 60, with a decade of diabetes behind them and an average body mass index, or BMI, of 32. Many were taking metformin or insulin when they began treatment with drugs like liraglutide or semaglutide. Researchers defined remission in several ways, from the strictest, blood sugar under control without any medication, to the most flexible, allowing continued use of GLP-1s but no new diabetes drugs. Depending on the definition, remission occurred in anywhere from 6 to 18% of participants. Under what researchers called the most balanced measure, about 1 in 8 people, roughly 12%, reached remission. On average, it took about 6 months to get there, and remission lasted close to a year. Those who achieved remission weren't just seeing better numbers on a chart. Their blood pressure dropped slightly, their triglycerides improved, and they lost a few kilograms of weight. They also saw fewer complications over time, particularly in the small blood vessels that feed the kidneys, eyes, and nerves. One of the most hopeful findings came from patients who had lived with diabetes for a shorter time and had fewer existing complications. They were more likely to go into remission and stay there longer. The researchers say that may point to the value of earlier intervention with medications that address both weight and metabolic health together. No one GLP-1 drug came out on top. Dulaglutide showed slightly better odds of remission, while semaglutide trended a bit lower, though differences were likely due to when each drug became available and how often patients switched during the study. For all its size and sophistication, this was still a retrospective look, not a controlled trial, and the researchers were quick to note that. But in a field where progress often comes slowly, the findings add to a growing sense that type 2 diabetes may not always be a lifelong sentence. For now, the message is a measured one. GLP-1 medications continue to be powerful tools for lowering blood sugar, promoting weight loss, and reducing cardiovascular risk. But for some, as in this Italian study suggests, they may also hold the key to something more, a chance to turn back the clock on a disease once thought irreversible. From Milan to Messina and across the world, that's a story worth hearing.
So everybody's going to go, well, what about tirzepatide? Well, 2022 would have really been too early to get any significant numbers on tirzepatide usage.
Right, it was really just looking at semaglutide and dulaglutide.
The ones that were out, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. So, and it was a backwards-looking study, so it's just aggregating data.
Right, they went out and got all that data and said, what happened?
I think it's interesting. Is this like something AI does? It just looks at big data sets and comes up with these?
I think there's researchers coming up with the questions and then directing the AI to
go out and search
and look.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically, there's so much data out there, there's no way a human could
look at it all in a lifetime.
So, it's a good way to use AI, I think. All right, well, that wraps up this edition of the Downsized News.
And this week is a special one. We're broadcasting live from Obesity Week in Atlanta, Georgia. This is the world's leading conference for obesity researchers and clinicians. We'll be sharing the latest updates on cutting-edge science, treatment breakthroughs, and the conversations shaping the future of obesity care.
So we're pretty excited. We're going to have a whole series of interviews of the presenters there. Lorraine and I have been talking about it. We're just going to show up with some cameras and we'll have it in our booth. Be like, I don't know, the Today Show live, kind of doing our thing, inviting people to come tell us what they're doing. If you're in Atlanta, please join us Monday night at 6 p.m. for the Downsized meetup as well. It's completely free, and you find more details on our website at thedownsized.org. Come say hello, meet the community, and be a part of this incredible adventure with us.
While you're checking out the details of our meetups on thedownsized.org, click over to our store tab and browse our GLP-1 Amazon store. You can also sign up for our Downsized email list and find all the details about our June 2026 Downsized cruise on rural Caribbean's Freedom of the Seas.
Make sure you hit like and subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss what's next. We'll keep you up to date on the latest GLP-1 news, explain the science in plain English, and share what's really happening in our own adventure.
Thank you for watching this week's edition of the Downsized News. I'm Lorraine Durham.
And I'm Christopher Durham, and we are The Downsized.